There is something you have been searching for your entire life. You searched for it in your work, you searched for it in your family, you searched for it in your accomplishments, in your home, in your plans, in your faith, in every place a person can look. And most of the time, you didn't even know what you were looking for. You just knew that something was missing. A settledness, a stillness, a feeling of being okay that didn't depend on everything going right. You would touch it sometimes, a quiet morning, a moment on a porch, an afternoon when nothing was wrong and nobody needed anything, and for 1 hour the noise inside you went silent. And then it would slip away. The phone would ring. The worry would return. The noise would come back. And you would go on searching without knowing you were searching. I am here to tell you the name of the thing you have been looking for. It is peace, not happiness. Happiness is weather. It comes and goes, and you were never meant to hold it. Peace. Peace is climate. Peace is the thing underneath the weather. And after 60, peace is not just something nice to want. Peace is the whole treasure. It is the real wealth. And today I am going to tell you why, and I am going to tell you what it costs, and I am going to tell you how to protect it once you have it. Because everything in this world, and I mean everything, will try to take it from you. Let me tell you why peace becomes the real wealth after 60. When you were younger, you were promised that the treasure was elsewhere. The treasure was success. The treasure was the house. The treasure was the family raised, the career built, the respect earned. And you chased those treasures, and maybe you caught some of them. And here you are. And let me ask you the question that only a person your age can answer honestly. Did the treasures deliver? The house, does it hold you at night? The career, does it call to check on you? The accomplishments, do they sit with you in the quiet evening and make the quiet feel warm instead of empty? You know the answer. The treasures were real, but they were not the treasure. Because a person can have all of them and still lie awake at 2 in the morning with a storm inside their chest. And a person can have almost none of them and sit on a small porch in the evening light so settled, so content, so unshaken, that kings would trade their kingdoms for 1 week inside that man's chest. I have known both of those people, and I am telling you which one was rich. My grandmother had a teaching about this that she gave me when I was young and hungry for all the wrong treasures. She said, every person carries 2 houses, the outer house and the inner house. The outer house is what the world sees, the building, the possessions, the family standing in front of it for the photograph. And people spend their whole lives working on the outer house, painting it, expanding it, repairing it, comparing it to the neighbors. But the inner house, the one inside your chest, the one where you actually live every minute of every day, most people never work on it at all. It is full of clutter they never cleared, old angers stacked in the corners, regrets leaking through the roof, resentments growing in the walls like mold, noise in every room. And she said, here is the joke the whole world plays on itself. You do not live in the outer house. You have never lived there. Not for 1 single day. You live in the inner one. And a person with a mansion outside and a ruin inside is homeless. And a person with a shack outside and a clean, warm, quiet inner house is home everywhere they go, every day, in every weather. After 60, she said, the outer house stops mattering to almost everyone but you. Nobody is coming to see it. The photographs are all taken, and you are left, finally, with the only house you ever really had. So clean it, repair it, make it warm, because you are going to spend the rest of your life inside. I want to tell you about 2 men so you can see what my grandmother meant. The first man I knew had everything the outer world counts: the large house, the land, the name people knew. And I sat with him on his porch once near the end of his life, looking out over property that most men would have traded years of their lives for. And he was not looking at the land. He was looking at nothing. His jaw was tight, his hands were restless, and out of nowhere he started telling me about a business partner who had cheated him. The story was fresh in his mouth. The anger was hot. The details were sharp. And then he told me about his brother and the fight over their father's land, and how his brother had turned the family against him. And then his son, who had married a woman who poisoned him against his own father. Story after story, storm after storm. And I sat there and I realized something that changed how I saw wealth forever. Every one of those stories was more than 20 years old. The business partner had been dead for a decade. The brother had been dead longer. The storms he was living inside were not even real weather anymore. They were recordings. And he played them every single day, alone, on that beautiful porch, on that beautiful land, inside an inner house so full of old thunder that he had not heard silence in 40 years. That man died rich and homeless. The second man had a small house at the edge of the reservation, one dog, a truck that mostly worked. And when you sat with him, something happened to you. Your shoulders came down. Your breathing slowed. You found yourself talking about things you didn't talk about with anyone else, because the quiet around him made room for it. He had known losses that would have broken most men. Buried a wife, buried a child, which is the heaviest stone a person can be asked to carry. And somehow the grief had not made him bitter. It had made him deep, like a canyon that the river cuts. The pain had carved space in him, and the space had filled with stillness, and the stillness held everyone who came near him. Children gathered at that man's house. Grown men drove hours to sit at his small table and say nothing in particular. His funeral was 3 times the size of the rich man's, and I understood, standing at both of those funerals in the same span of years, that I had watched the 2 houses my grandmother described. One man spent his life building outward and died in a ruin. One man was forced by grief to build inward and died in a palace. The world had it exactly backwards about which one was wealthy. The world usually does. Before I share the next teaching, I need to tell you something. I am not going to be here forever, and most of what I know was never written anywhere. So I sat down and I wrote it, all of it. 20 teachings, 4 parts in the order they were meant to be received. The ones about clearing the inner house. The ones about finding the stillness that nothing can shake. The ones I have never said on camera. It is called The Native Way, and it costs less than 1 dinner you will not remember. Scan the code on your screen or look in the comments. But do not leave yet, because what I am about to tell you next is what peace actually costs. And most people are not willing to pay it, which is exactly why most people never have it. Peace has a price. This is the part nobody tells you. People imagine that peace arrives on its own when the conditions are right, when the family calms down, when the health stabilizes, when the world stops being crazy. They wait for peace the way you wait for a bus, and the bus never comes. Because peace is not delivered, peace is purchased, and the currency is not money. The currency is everything you have to give up to have it. Let me read you the bill. Peace costs you the last word, the argument you could win, the point you could prove, the correction you could make. You have to leave them on the table. Every time you take the last word, you pay for it with your peace. The words feel good for a minute, and then the storm they stir lasts for days. The peaceful person lets the wrong statements stand, lets the unfair comment pass, lets the other person believe they won, and walks home with the only prize that was ever actually on the table, a quiet chest. Peace costs you the need to be understood. This is a heavy one. There are people in your life, maybe your own children, who have a version of you in their heads that is not accurate. They misjudge you. They misremember. They tell the story of some old conflict in a way that makes you the villain, and you were not the villain, or not only. And everything in you wants to sit them down and correct the record, explain, defend, present the evidence. And I am telling you that trial will never end. You can spend your entire remaining life as a defendant in a courtroom that never adjourns, or you can walk out of the courtroom. You know what you did. You know what you meant. You know what the years actually held. Let their version be their version. It is a story they need for reasons that belong to them. Your peace does not require their understanding. It only requires yours. I knew a woman who fought this trial for 11 years. Her daughter believed a version of the divorce that was not true. The daughter believed her mother had broken the family, when the truth was more complicated and sadder, and involved things a mother does not tell a child about her own father. And this woman spent 11 years trying to correct the record, 11 years of careful conversations that turned into arguments, 11 years of letters written and rewritten and sometimes sent, 11 years of lying awake, building the case, refining the evidence, imagining the day the daughter would finally see. And the day never came. The daughter's version had hardened into the daughter's history, and every attempt to correct it only proved, in the daughter's eyes, that her mother was defensive. The trial was unwinnable, and the woman finally understood something in her 70s that saved her last years. She understood that she was allowed to stop attending her own trial. She stopped defending. She stopped correcting. When the old accusation surfaced, she said only, "I love you, and I lived it differently than you remember it, and I am done arguing with your memory." And then she changed the subject. And a strange thing happened over the following 2 years. The war cooled. Not because the daughter changed her version, because there was no longer an opponent. And in the space where the arguing used to live, small, ordinary moments started growing again. Coffee, recipes, the grandchildren. The record was never corrected, and the woman told me it was the best deal she ever made. She traded being understood for being at peace. And she said if she had known the exchange rate earlier, she would have made the trade 20 years sooner. Peace costs you certain people, not hatred of them, distance from them. There are people who cannot enter your day without leaving a storm behind. You know their names already. The one who calls only to pour chaos into your ear. The one who visits and leaves you exhausted for 2 days. The one who cannot let you be happy without adding a dark comment, cannot let you rest without adding guilt, cannot let you be at peace because peace in you disturbs something unhealed in them. You do not have to hate these people. You do not have to fight them. You simply cannot afford them anymore. On the fixed income of your remaining energy, they are a luxury expense. And the peaceful elders I have known all made the same quiet decision at some point. They stopped paying for storms. They loved certain people from a distance the way you admire a hurricane on the news, sincerely, and from very far away. And peace costs you the fantasy of a different past. This is the last item on the bill, and the largest. Somewhere in you there is a war still running against things that already happened. The marriage that failed, the years that were wasted, the person who left, the choice you would give anything to make again differently. And every day, some part of your strength gets drafted into that war, fighting battles in a country that no longer exists. Peace requires a treaty with your own past, not approval, a treaty. It happened. It cannot unhappen. I am no longer at war with it. Those 3 sentences, truly meant, are worth more than any inheritance anyone will ever leave you. Because they release the soldiers. All that strength comes home. And you get to spend it on the only country you actually live in. Today. Now let me tell you how to protect peace once you have it. Because peace attracts thieves. The moment you become a peaceful person, the world will test it. People will be drawn to your calm the way cold hands are drawn to a fire. And some of them will want to warm themselves, and some of them will want to scatter the coals just to watch. So you guard it. And guarding peace is not complicated, but it is daily. My grandfather guarded his like this. Every morning he sat alone for a few minutes before speaking to anyone. He said the first voice you hear in the morning should be your own quiet, not the world's noise. Every time trouble that did not belong to him knocked, he asked one question before opening the door. Is this mine to carry? And most of the time the honest answer was no, and he blessed it and let it pass. He did not argue with fools, not because he could not win, but because he had done the arithmetic. The cost of every victory over a fool was 3 days of his own quiet, and no victory was worth the price. And when something did break through, because things break through, a grief, a betrayal, a hard day, he did not pretend to be peaceful. He took the storm outside. He walked it into the land. He gave it to the sky and the ground, which are large enough to hold what a chest cannot. And he came back quiet. Not because he stuffed the storm down, but because he gave it somewhere to go. And I want to add one more guard to my grandfather's list, because the modern world invented a thief he never had to face, the noise machine, the television that runs all day, the phone that delivers the world's every fire and fight and fury directly into your hands every hour on purpose, because your disturbance is worth money to somebody. I want you to understand that clearly. There are rooms full of clever people whose entire job is to break your peace, because a disturbed person watches longer and clicks more. Your anger is their harvest. Your fear is their crop. And every evening you spend marinating in the noise, you are working their fields for free. I am not telling you to ignore the world. An elder should know what is happening. I am telling you to visit the news the way you visit a sick relative, briefly, with your boots on, and then leave. Do not move in. Do not let it sleep in your house. The world's storms were happening before you were born, and they will be happening after you are gone. And you're witnessing every hour of them changes nothing out there and ruins everything in here. Guard the door. Choose the hour you look with clear eyes, and then close the door and return to the only day you were actually given. This one. That is the practice. That is the whole estate you are managing now. Not the money, not the property, the quiet. You spent 60 years building the outer life. Spend what remains furnishing the inner one. Because I have sat with many people at the very end, and I will tell you what I never once heard. I never heard anyone inventory their possessions in their final days. But I watched, again and again, how the ones who had made peace with their past, with their people, with themselves, how they rested in those last seasons like people who had come home after a long journey. Their wealth was visible. It was in the room. You could feel it when you walked in. And the ones who never paid the price, who kept the last word and the old wars and the storms on retainer, their poverty was in the room too. Same size rooms, same beds, completely different estates. Choose your estate now, while there is still time to build it. Peace is the real wealth. Protect it like the treasure it is, because it is the only thing you own that you will still be using on your very last day. And I want to leave you with the smallest, most practical thing I know. Peace is not built in large gestures. It is built in the next 10 minutes. Right now, when this video ends, you will make a choice. You can pick up the phone and check what fresh disturbance the world has prepared for you. Or you can sit for a moment in the quiet that is already in your room. It is there. It has been there the whole time, underneath the noise, the way the sky is always above the clouds. 10 minutes of choosing the quiet. That is one brick in the inner house. Tomorrow morning, before the world gets its hands on you, 10 more minutes. Another brick. When the difficult person calls and you let it ring once before deciding whether today is a day you can afford them, another brick. When the old regret surfaces at 2 in the morning and instead of picking up the whole war you say, "I have made peace with you," and you turn over, another brick. Nobody builds the inner house in a day. The rich man's ruin was built one replayed storm at a time, and the poor man's palace was built one chosen quiet at a time. And both of them did their construction in ordinary 10-minute moments exactly like the one you are standing in right now. The tools are in your hands. The lot is paid for. You have been carrying the deed your whole life. Build. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way. 20 teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what is the one thing that steals your peace the most? And what would it take to stop paying for it? I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.